Hi, my name is Mike Moss, and this video is hopefully going to show you how to set up Eclipse for Android development. So there's 4 steps. The first is basically to plan what we need, then install Java, the Eclipse IDE itself, and then finally check to see what we've done. So let's start with the planning phase. Really the important thing here is to determine whether or not you actually even need Java in the first place. And you can do that by simply running java-version at the command line. The other thing to consider is whether or not you're going to be building with 32-bit or 64-bit tools. This doesn't impact, if you're building 32-bit apps in Android. It's just that's the tools that you'll be using on the platform that you have. To check for Java, we're going to bring up the command window, and since I'm on Windows 8.1, I need to run off the Start menu, Start button here. Type in command into the Run command, and press Enter, or the OK button. And once the command window's up, we can type out Java-version, and then we can see which version we have. Now, it shows here 1.7, which is Java 7. If you have 1.6, that's Java 6, and it appears that I'm using the 64-bit version, which is great. If the command result return Java 1.6 or 1.7 is already installed on your machine, you don't need the next steps. You can actually run with what you have. But if you want to get up to the latest and greatest, go ahead and follow these next steps. One thing that's a little confusing to people is there's 2 different versions of Java. One is called the JRE, or Java Runtime Environment, and the other is the JDK, or the Java Development Kit. If you're not planning on doing any Java development, the JRE will be just fine for Android. But if you're planning on doing, Java EE or other types of Java development, you probably want to grab the JDK. So to get started, let's just go to java.com/getjava and grab the latest JRE. So we click the download button, agree to the terms, and it starts to download. Okay, so let's just click the installer to start the install process. Let's step through the wizard, install, turn off this toolbar garbage. Thank you very much, Oracle, for that. It'll take a while for it to finish, but when it comes back, if you've done everything correctly or if it's successfully installed, you get this little confirmation screen. Okay, so now that we've got Java installed, we can actually move on to installing the Eclipse integrated development environment. There's 2 stages to that. One is actually getting it from eclipse.org/downloads, and then basically unzipping it to where you want to put it. So when you go to the Eclipse site, you're going to be presented with all these different types. Let's just grab the Eclipse standard. That's all you really need. I'm grabbing the 64-bit because I know I have the 64-bit Java installed. And it will download to a zip file. It'll take a while to finish, so let's wait for it. But when it does, you'll see that there's just a folder inside this zip that's called Eclipse. And one of the things that I like to do is to keep things organized is I'm going to copy this out into a general SDK directory that I'm going to make in my root of my C. So C SDK. I'm going to paste it in here. And this will take a while since it's quite large. But one of the last things I like to do once it's done copying, just so I know which version this was Kepler version 4.3.1. Because you can have multiple instances of Eclipse alongside of one another. So let's just launch it from here. You'll briefly get the Kepler splash screen and then this workspace chooser. Just go ahead and go with the default for now. So if we just click OK, we should, if everything's working correctly, get the Eclipse application to start. There's options for you to look at, but we're going to go into the workbench. And this is the default Java perspective that we'll be using quite a bit for Android development. Okay, to install the plugin, then all we really need to do is go to the installing ADT link on the Google Developer Android site. So if we go here, what we just simply need to do is copy the ADT plugin link from straight off the middle of the page here. It does give you the instructions on how to do it, and there's some extra stuff on if you need the translation manager, but really what we're just going to do is get the ADT installed. So back in Eclipse, we just simply go to Help, Install New Software, and then paste in that URL that we copied. Click Enter, and you'll see a pending for a minute while it looks it up. I use the NDK, so I select it, but you could get away with just selecting the developer tools. But select what you need, and then click Next, agree to the license, and then click Finish, and it'll start downloading. This will take a while. Okay, so when the install is kind of finished, you'll get the security warning. Go ahead and click through it, and it will actually ask to restart Eclipse, and that's what will happen. Okay, so one of the other things that the plugin will do for you is set up or let you set up the SDK itself. You don't have to do it separately. So one of the first things that comes up is this dialog, and it doesn't let you get to the other dialog. It says it's the ADK, the SDK is not properly set. Well, that's because we haven't installed it yet. So just go ahead and dismiss that. And this gives you the option of using a new SDK or an existing one. And since we haven't downloaded one yet, we're going to do a new one. And I'm going to navigate to my location where I had the SDK for the Eclipse. I'm just going to put it right next to the Eclipse one. And I want to name this similar to the ones that you get from Google. So it's Android SDK Windows. Fix that. And then go. And okay, so the install, we need to agree to the license terms, so accept the license, click install, and this will take a little while. Okay, so once it's finished, one of the good things to do is set up a few device targets. These are Android devices that you want to build against in the emulator, for example. So if we go to the workspace and actually go in, you'll know that everything's been successful if you get the SDK manager and the AVD installed. So let's start the SDK manager. And bring that up and make sure a couple of common Android device targets are installed. So by default, it's already installed the tools and the 4.3 platform. But let's say we want to add ice cream sandwich. So we go down here to 4.0 and select the SDK platform. And if we wanted gingerbread, for example, we could do 2.3.3. But let's just leave it unchecked for now, just to minimize the amount of time it takes to install here. I'm also going to install the Haxum Intel emulator. This speeds up the x86 emulation. So let's do that. Let's install, accept the licenses, and there's 3 different ones here, so you have to kind of go through 3 different ones. And click install, and this will take a while. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is just check and make sure that the installation has kind of worked everything out. So we've got our virtual device manager. We've installed a couple of targets, and if we click down the target list, we should see the ones that we installed via the SDK manager here. And select our device and then select our target if we want to use that. So that's working. Let's also take a look at just to create a new test project. This is always good to make sure that we have everything in place. So I'm going to create a new project. Go to Android application project. The fact that these things are here and this dialog, this wizard is here, is indication that the plugin was successfully installed. So let's just create a test project. And I don't want to create a launcher icon. Let's click next to just leave everything default for now, and then finish off the wizard. Okay, so when this finishes up here, we go to the project, and one of the things to check, I guess, is the manifest. So the manifest has a custom editor in Eclipse, and if we double click on it, yes, we see that we do have a custom editor for the Android manifest. That works nice. And another thing to check is in our source, do we get inline content assist or content help for the Android stuff? And here we go, the Android app activity shows up. So that all seems to work pretty well. And that's pretty much it. If you want to go back and read through the full official documentation, you can find it at developer.android.com/SDK. Thanks for watching.